Hello, everyone, and welcome to day 2 of the 5-day literature series. Although I know it's no more day 2 क्योंकि CU ने exams दे दिए थे, but yeah, I'm back. So basically, day 2 is about myths about literature students. So it's something that people often question me the moment they hear my subject. Oh, you study literature? अच्छा, तो तुम तो सिर्फ स्टोरी बुक्स, पोइट्री, ड्रामा, नॉवेल ये सभी पढ़ती रहती होगी दिन भर. और हर सिंगल टाइम आई स्माइल. Not because they are right, but because they have no idea of how wrong they are. So, today I'm gonna talk about one of the greatest myths that is surrounding among the literature students. And if you ever thought that literature is just about reading stories, books, novella and drama, then this video will definitely change the way you look at it forever. So keep watching. Okay, so now let's jump to the myth number 1, that is literature is just stories, poetries, novels and drama. Yeah, we read stories, poetries, novels, drama, all kind of stuff, but that's like saying that a doctor only memorizes bones or a lawyer only read laws. Well, texts are just starting points. As a literature students, we are trained to interrogate the texts, to ask questions like why was it written, who was allowed to speak and who was all stayed silent, and what was happening in the world when these words were being born and etc. So basically, literature is not just passive thinking, it's about active thinking. Next, what people completely overlook is that we study the history of English literature. Not one century, not two, but hundreds of evolving voices. We move from the Old English to the Middle English, from the Renaissance to the Romanticism, to the Victorian morality, to the modernist fragmentation, and from colonial narratives to post colonial resistance. Every literary period, is deeply connected to the history. So basically, the Renaissance, it reflects power, monarchy, religion. Romanticism reacts against industrialization heavily, and I love the age. It's all about nature and stuff. Victorian era, it exposes hypocrisy beneath moral order, and modernism captures trauma, war, and disillusionment. So basically, when we read literature, we are reading the history through an emotion. Next, literature is society, politics, and psychology. So, literature is never ever written in isolation. It carries the weight of society, of politics, of gender roles, of class struggles, and the mental conflict. You know, when we read Shakespeare, we study ambition, authority, betrayal, friendship, justice, etc. And when we read women writers like Jane Austen or Sylvia Plath, we study silence, restrictions, resistance, and voice, the woman power voice. And when we go on to the post-colonial text, I'm sorry, like George Orwell, we study power, identity, displacements, and stuff. So literature, it basically teaches us how people felt about their world, not just what happened in it. It has their feelings, raw feelings. That's basically something that history books cannot capture. Now, the question which most people ask me, what literature students actually do? Well, we don't just read novels, poetries, like I've said earlier. We just don't write them. We don't write question answers, but we analyze. We compare the texts across centuries. We write critical essays. We argue the interpretations. We defend the ideas with theory, context, and logic. We study philosophy, psychology, sociology, all through the language. We learn how the wounds shape the thought, and how narratives influence the belief, and how stories can challenge power. Well, this is not easy. Not at all. This is not just reading. This is intellectual discipline. So one question is that when I started the my study as a literature student, people used to tell me about these myths. So I used to wonder that why do these myths actually exist till date? I mean, there are so many people who have already done literature in the past. My elders and stuff. But why do this myth still exist? So basically, it exists because kind of literature looks very soft from outside. When I was in school, I used to believe वो literature सबसे easy है, but अंदर से it is sharp. It questions the authority. It unsettles your comfort, and it forces you to think, especially the open ending stories. It will make you think like, oh my god. Literature will never give you the easy answers. And that's what, like, it gives you the most difficult truths. And maybe that's why people underestimate it, and people go to science with clear cut short answers right in front of you, because literature will make you ponder on a single line throughout the year. So I would like to end this by saying that I'm super, super proud being a literature student. So I don't just read stories, I study the voices that survived the centuries. I study the words that changed the societies, and I study the texts that still question the present. So, being a literature student means understanding the entire world, not through the numbers, but through the humanity. And that's why I'm super proud of what I'm studying. Because, literature is not just words on page, it's about why those words still matter. So, yeah, this was day 2 of my literature series, which is pretty late. And yeah, this is me, a literature student, Disha Agarwal, owing my subject with lots, lots, and lots of pride. Ta-da! See you in the next video.